Hey everyone, Shane here with eTrailer.com. Today I have a 2019 Ram 1500. I want to walk through how to install the Airlift 1000 air helper springs for the rear axle for the coils. There's different types of air suspension enhancement. You have the type that we have here, which is a bag that goes inside the coil. You have a SumoSpring type, which goes in place of your jounce bumper. It's just like a foam pad. And then you have a separate air bag that will fit in place of your jounce bumper. The difference between them is the bag that goes inside the coil spring, and then your SumoSpring type, or the foam block, is more for your light duty hauling. So for instance, a camper like this, it doesn't have a whole lot of tongue weight. Maybe you use the back of your truck for some lightweight stuff. I think the SumoSprings or these would probably be a perfect option. If you go more towards what the truck can handle, I recommend going with the airbags that go in place of the jounce bumper. They're going to handle a little bit more weight capacity to them. These are going to have a 2,100 pound load leveling capacity. Keep in mind that does not increase the load carrying capacity of the vehicle. You always want to go with the lowest number between the two. So what suspension enhancement is going to do for you? If we didn't have it and we put weight on the tongue of on the back of the truck or in the bed of the truck, it's going to make the back of our truck squat. Brings the front end up, causes a whole bunch of wear and tear on our rear axle that we don't necessarily need. It can make our ride unsafe when we're towing something. Adding the air springs will allow us to get the back of our truck back up level, front end back down, so we can support that extra weight. They come with a T-connector. You can set them up as dual path or single path. The benefit to the dual path is if you carry weight in the back of your truck and it's weighted more on one side, you can air up that one side a little bit more than the other to help support that weight. If you do it as a single, maybe you pull a trailer like this all the time and you're just wanting that extra support, you set up a single path, you can add the air pressure, it's going to air up both bags at the same time, and then you just hook up and you're ready to go. Another thing to keep in mind, say we're not pulling a trailer, we have a load in the back of the truck. When we have a load in the back of the truck that's heavy, we're going around a corner, you're going to start to feel the truck kind of lean, and that's called body roll. Without that, it's putting that stress on that side of the suspension. Having bags to support that suspension, you're going to get a lot less body roll. It's going to make your ride a lot more comfortable. Now we're going to give you some before and after footage on our test course. Same weight before the bags were put on, after the bags were put on, and see what kind of a difference it made. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a measurement here at the back, normal ride height, no weight on it. We don't have the trailer hooked up yet. From the bottom edge here down to the ground in the back and in the front, find out our normal ride height. We're going to note that down. We're going to add weight, and then we're going to take that measurement again. Here at the back, we're at about 38 1/8. Go to do the same thing here in the front. We're at 37 1/2. We'll note that down. We're going to add the weight of the trailer onto the vehicle and see how much change we get. Now that we've got the weight, we'll take a measurement again. And we are at 36 3/4. So we've dropped quite a bit here. Let's go to the front, take another one here. And we're about 37 7/8. Now we've only come down about 1 inch in the back and raised the front only about 1/4 inch. Now, if we add the weight in this vehicle, more of what this vehicle can handle, the back end's gonna drop even more, front end's gonna come up even more. We're gonna get unnecessary stress on our rear axle that we don't need. Front end, as I mentioned, is gonna come up. We're gonna get that uneven tire wear, braking, steering's gonna be light, headlights are gonna be aiming out. It's gonna make it unsafe. We're gonna take the trailer or the camper without our bags on through our test course. We're going to go over some bumps, kind of give you everyone an idea of what the suspension does with the weight on it without having bags. So right off the bat, what I notice is, especially with tongue weight, the back end seems a little flat, like it's not getting the full compression that we want. It is kind of hitting a little bit. It kind of makes the ride uncomfortable. It's a little nerve-wracking. Now we're going to hit our test course again. Go over some uneven bumps. Right off the bat, I can already feel the back of the truck. It has a lot more support. I'm not getting a lot of up and down movement. I don't feel like I'm bottoming out. I don't feel like I'm hitting real hard. I feel like the bags are doing what they're supposed to be doing to help support that back there. Now that we got our bags installed, we have our trailer hooked back up to it. Tongue weight on it's about 550 pounds, so we'll go ahead and take another measurement to see where we're at. Here at the back, we're back up to our normal ride height. We'll go ahead and take a measurement of the front as well. And then the front, we were only up a 1/4 inch, but now we're back down. So as I mentioned before, we're bringing our headlights back down when we have weight on the back. Normal tire wear, braking and steering is not going to be light anymore. On the back side, we're able to get that back end up level again. We're taking that unnecessary stress off our rear axle. Now we're using a camper like this to give us that extra tongue weight that we need. Obviously with something like this, if you're going to be towing it, you're going to want to use weight distribution. There's different types of weight distribution setups that you can find here at eTrailer. If I had to recommend one, I'd recommend one that has sway control and that allows you to back up without disconnecting anything. Let's go ahead, get in the shop, get the bags on. We'll hook everything back up together once we have air pressure in the bags and see what happens. Start your installation. You want to make sure your front wheels are chocked. You need some jack stands. You can see I got them stacked on some plywood to get us up high enough. You're going to need a jack. What we're going to do is we're going to jack up from the center of the axle. We want to get that up as high as we can, get our jack stands up as high as we can, and get them on a frame rail. When we lower that back down, if you find that your tires are not quite coming down low enough to where you're going to have enough access, take the wheels off. I recommend taking the wheels off anyway. It gives you a lot more room to work, and you can do it by yourself. So once you have that set up, take an 8mm socket. If you have wheel well liners, we're going to pull those out right along this inside edge, and you're going to have 2 right here. You're not going to have to remove the bottom 2. And then we'll pull out our liner. Easiest way that I find to do it is just kind of pull in the center. Get one side folded out like this. And we're going to kind of pull down as we're pulling out. And then we'll set that aside. Now the directions aren't going to tell you this, but you're not going to get enough flex out of your axle if you don't do this. We're going to come right back here to this link for our sway bar. With a 5/8 socket, we're going to remove this top bolt. We're going to take a 1/2 inch, and where your brake line goes into this little bracket here, we're going to remove it. On the driver's side, this is actually going to be up here on the frame rail. You're going to want to remove that as well. But we're only doing one side at a time. We can take a trim panel tool, and we may have to pull this out for now, just so we don't stretch that line too much. It's just a little plastic line. Put that out like that, and we can put that back in later on. And we're going to take a 13/16 socket and wrench. Make sure you're supporting your axle. We're going to take the nut off this side, and we're going to remove this bolt off of our shock. You may need a breaker bar to get this off. If you find that this bolt will not slide out easy, that means there's too much pressure here. Use the jack, raise or lower your axle just enough where you can slide it out. And then we just want to make sure that that's loose. Next, we're going to take a paint marker on the very bottom of our spring and where it's sitting on this cup. We're going to take a marker, we're going to mark a line on the spring and then down on the cup, so that when we pull the spring out and put it back in, We line up those two lines and it's where the manufacturer had it. And it doesn't really matter where you put it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to lower the jack to let our axle hang enough. We're probably going to have to push down on here to give us enough gap at the top that we can lift up on the bottom and get it over top of this lip right here. So before we take the spring out, you'll notice these little tabs here. You're going to have one here and one straight back there. When we pull this out, there's a rubber cup on the top. I want to make sure when we go back in, those two tabs are going up through those same holes. So you can see we got some movement at the top here. So what we're going to do is we're going to push down here and we're going to kind of lift up and push our spring back up and get it over top of this. If this doesn't come out, pull it out. So now what we're going to need is our airline tube is going to come in one roll. We're going to take two ends, put it together, find the center, split it in half. That's going to be one for each side. You're going to need your bag. You're going to need one of these plates, this fitting here, and a pair of pliers, and one of these small little clamps. We're going to take this fitting and we're going to hand thread it onto the top of this. Don't use any tools to tighten this down. We'll slide this plate on. Actually, we'll take this little fitting first, or this little clamp. We're going to get our airline tube all the way down to here. We're going to take this clamp, we're going to pull it up where our airline tube was going over top of those bars. Now, if you find that these two little ends kind of bend up a little bit, you kind of press down on them, just don't squeeze them hard. Because if you do, that clamp's going to squeeze and it's going to leave a gap in there. Before we put our bag in place, you're going to have an isolator. Actually, you're going to have two of them. You're going to have one here in the middle, and you're going to have one here at the top. We're going to take the one off down here in the middle. We'll take our bag, we're going to drop it right down in the spring. Take this piece, feed our line up through it. And we'll set it back down on our spring. We're going to take our airline, we're going to come up through the top here, and then we can put our spring back in place. Make sure that that line is not stuck in here, in between here and the inside of this. Again, we want to make sure that these nipples are coming through those holes. See there? Make sure our line is lined up down here. We're going to take our bag, we're going to slide it all the way to the top. That little plastic washer there, we want to seat it up inside of that. Take your airline tube and just kind of route it back there somewhere. We're not going to run it right yet. Now we can start putting everything back together. Make sure when you're putting your shock bolt in, the head goes out towards the wheel. Once we get our bolt in, we get the nut tightened down, we're going to come back and torque that to the specifications and the instructions. Once you get your shock bolt tightened and torqued to the specification and instructions, reinstall your in-link bolt at the top, your brake line bracket here. If you pulled this off, stick it back in the hole, reinstall your liner, and then you can go ahead and put your wheel back on and then move to the other side. As I mentioned before, the only thing that's going to be different from the passenger side to the driver's side is on our passenger side, Our brake line bracket bolt is here. On the driver's side, it's up here on the frame rail. Other than that, everything is the same. Our customer is wanting the valves to run through the license plate holes. So we're gonna have to open this hole up just a little bit. 5/16 drill bit. We're gonna open that hole up. Make sure you check behind it. Make sure there's no wiring or anything like that back there. When routing your airline, you want to make sure you're staying away from anything hot or moving. What I did is I just went right over top of the frame rail. Kind of see my line there. Right to the back. Came over the top here. Now we're going to take another one of those clamps. We're going to slide it over top the end of the line. We're going to take this fitting. We're going to put it on just like that. We're going to slide that clamp over the end. Now if you want to, you can cut your line short. I don't. I like to leave them the same length, and I can just roll it up, zip tie it up somewhere. That way if there's ever a leak or the line gets damaged anywhere, we can cut it off. We know we have plenty of line that we can use. Before you put your fitting through the hole, put a nut on. And then a star washer. Take this, we're going to slide it right up through the hole. And you can see where this line is hitting this plastic piece. If you take it, feed it up right behind it, it doesn't kink it. And then again, as I mentioned, we can take the rest of this and we can zip tie it up over here, wherever we can find a spot for it. Then on the outside, we're going to put on this rubber washer first, flat washer, and then a nut. And then we're going to tighten those together. Now we're going to add about 25 to 35 PSI in each bag, and then we're going to do a leak test. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some soapy water, and we're going to spray anywhere that the line goes into a fitting. So this fitting here, and the one on the top of our bag. So when we spray this, what we're looking for is we're looking for little bubbles to be created. So you look right around the line. Doesn't look like we have any bubbles that are forming. So we'll just repeat that process for the remaining ones. It's going to do it for a look at and installation on the Airlift 1000 air helper springs for the rear axle coils on a 2019 Dodge Ram 1500.